Setting practice goals is so important, but what's the best way to do it? Hey guys, it's Maria. Welcome back to my channel. I post videos every single Thursday giving you guys the best tips and tools for being more effective in your practice sessions and helping you achieve your musical goals. So if you're new, consider subscribing. I'm back with another video in the Efficient Practice series where we talk all about how to make the most of your time in the practice room. Last time we talked about sight reading secrets in 2 parts, so if you haven't seen either of those videos, they'll be linked up here. But in this video, we're talking about how to set practice goals and actually achieve them. I have 6 actionable steps for you guys to help you identify, break down, and schedule all of your goals so you actually get them done. So dream as big as you can, because with the right amount of planning, pretty much you can achieve anything. And as always, if you have any questions about practice that I haven't yet covered, please leave them in the comments below and I will be sure to get to them in a future video. So without further ado, let's get into it. Step 1 is dream big. This is the funnest part of goal setting because you actually get to sit down with a piece of paper and write down every single goal you ever had for yourself. So try to take your time and remember every single piece, competition, festival, school, degree, certification, or project, anything that you wanted to do, be a part of, or complete, and write it down on this list. For me, some of my big goals were to get a Bachelor of Music degree, a Master's in Music degree, and start a music studio, stuff like that. And your guys' goals could be that, or they could be applying to a competition, taking an RCM exam, or even learning a new piece of repertoire. Just make sure with whatever goal you have that it is measurable and not vague. So instead of having your goal be a better piano player or be better at jazz, go through the entire jazz piano book by Mark Levine from start to finish instead of just be better at jazz. Shout out to my jazz series. That being said, really go wild with this step so you can see the full vision of where you want to be in the next 10 or 20 years. This step was actually inspired by Tony Robbins, who said in one of his talks, and actually on his website, I'll leave it linked down below, that the first step to goal setting is to sit down and brainstorm everything you ever want to accomplish in the next, give or take, 20 years. 20 years, I feel like is negotiable. For me, it's hard to envision where I'm gonna be in 20 years. Maybe that's because I'm 21, but for me, 10 years was kind of the limit. I couldn't see past that. But whatever number you choose, it's totally up to you. Just try to think as far out as possible so you really don't miss out on any opportunities or any goals that you want to set for yourself, however big they may be. And another thing Tony Robbins said, which I kind of do a little bit differently, is he says to set a timer for 6 minutes and brainstorm, whereas I tried that and I didn't actually get all of the goals on paper in 6 minutes. I needed more like 30 minutes to do it, and I really feel like I want to take that extra time to make sure everything gets written down. So if you guys are like me or not like me, it's really up to you, but it's totally okay to take extra time to write down every single goal so you make sure you don't miss anything. Step 2 is when you're done brainstorming, put a number next to each one of those goals. So this number is either going to be 1, 2, 5, or 10. This is also inspired by Tony Robbins, except he had 20 in there as well. And this number is going to be a reflection of how many years you're giving yourself to achieve each one of those goals. This really helps put everything into perspective and not to get overwhelmed with analysis paralysis right at the beginning of your brainstorm. I feel like the order of these 2 steps is super important. So rather than writing one goal down and putting a number on it right away, writing the next one down, putting a number on it, you're kind of getting all your ideas out and then trying to quantify them and put them into perspective, because naturally after brainstorm your goals are probably going to be all out of order and you just want to put them back, kind of organize them into the closest to the farthest from where you are currently. Alright, so step number 3 is to break each of the goals down, starting with the most short-term goals, so the closest goals to you today. That's just so that in case you run out of time, you at least know what you're going to be up to in the nearest future. Obviously, ideally, you would want to cover every single goal on that list, but we all know that stuff happens, stuff comes up, and you most likely, as will I, not have time to break down every single one of those goals. So just start with the ones closest to you. And an example of this would be if your big goal is to learn a piece with multiple movements in it, you could break that down into the separate movements. And within those separate movements, you could do learn and memorize if memorizing is a thing you do separately. And another example could be if you're planning to do an RCM exam or a recital that requires multiple pieces to be performed. Each one of those pieces could be a separate goal, and each one of those pieces could have multiple movements in them, etc., etc. So just try to break it down into smaller chunks so they're easier to plan and organize. And a great way to do this is actually by drawing a web or a mind map. I prefer the word web because it actually looks like a web, but let me show you how I break down one of my actual goals. So one of my goals this year was to complete my graduation recital. I want to finish off strong this year, so I started by writing down all my repertoire. So Rock 2, no brainer, and we actually have a few requirements to satisfy this year, including a Canadian work and a BIPOC composer. I wanted to play a few Scarlatti sonatas. Next, let's further break that down into the separate movements, write in the Canadian piece and the BIPOC piece and the actual Scarlatti sonatas I'm going to play. And of course, for each one of the movements or works, I need to learn and memorize them separately. You know me, so I'm going to go ahead and fill everything in. And as I go along, I usually check off all the items I completed, and at the end, it pretty much looks like this. Once you've broken down your goals into actionable steps, you should feel a lot better, first of all, because now your goals aren't this abstract thing that you don't know how you're gonna get there. You actually broke it down into steps. And the next thing you want to do is break them down further into weekly goals. And this is what you're actually gonna put in your practice journal if you have one. If you don't, I seriously recommend starting one. For example, if I have 6 months to learn a concerto, I would probably spend the first 4 months learning it, second 2 months memorizing it, and within those initial months, a weekly goal could be learn pages 1 through 21, so 3 pages a day, stuff like that. And just a pro tip, always leave room for error. Leave some wiggle room in your weekly goals. So don't try to plan out your whole year, 52 weeks, and then just stick to that, because things happen. Things might go wrong. You might have underestimated yourself. You might have overestimated yourself, and things might actually take a little bit longer than you thought. And you don't want that initial plan to hold you back and make you feel like you didn't accomplish what you wanted to, and that means you're being lazy or whatever. Don't let those negative thoughts get to you. So I would recommend just planning out the first month, so 4 to 5 weeks initially, and then just check in to see every few days or every week how you're doing. So if you overestimated yourself and you're actually moving a little bit slower than you thought, adjust the other goals accordingly and don't let that get you down. I know I'm saying that because from personal experience, you feel like you could have done better, but sometimes it just so happens that you just did a lousy job planning it. So it's okay to change things along the way. And of course, as with any skill you're practicing, you have to actually put in the hours. So you have to stick to it and see it through. So go to the practice room, go to your piano or whatever instrument you're playing, and practice every day, every week, every month, and only then will you start to see actual progress. Especially if you're new at something, it might take a while to build up that momentum. What I mean by momentum is after the honeymoon phase is gone, when you have all that excitement about starting a new thing, you actually start, and this happens to everyone, you start to realize how much work it actually is. And it's important at that moment that you keep working at it and you don't give up, because you're actually building up that momentum that will make it harder for you to quit later, which is exactly what you want. And another thing is those tiny improvements that you're making every single day add up, and you might not see the results just because, or the progress, because you're looking at it every single day. Just think about if you're looking at something and it's moving to the right just a millimeter each time. You might not actually see that it's moving, but if you take a step back, you can see the actual progress that you made. And that's actually the best part about being a teacher, is seeing that progress week to week, month to month of your students, because you're not there with them all the time in the practice room. And they might not see the progress, but you're there to show them that they made incredible progress. And I want to leave you guys with one last thing, and that's you never know when you're one step away from victory. So don't give up. What I mean by this is, we've all been there when you're having an off day and you're practicing those few bars and they're just not working. You tried it once, you tried it twice, 3 times, 5 times, maybe 10 times. On the 11th try, it might click. You might get it right. It might be perfect. You might get the memory where it's supposed to be. If you had given up before that point, you would have never gotten there. So just keep working at it, keep pushing, keep rolling the ball forward, because you never know when you're one step away from getting it. And with that, you're all set to start setting and achieving your musical goals. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and please comment down below with what goals you're working towards this month. Subscribe to this channel, and if you want to watch some more of my videos, you can do that right here. Bye guys!